I do two things. I do sweetgreen and I do NPR. That's all I do. And Seth Meyers. And the Today Show. Okay, fine. But really, I just do Market Watch with Kai Rizdal. That's the show, right? Are we filming? Hey, it's Carla, and I'm here in Santa Monica at the famous Santa Monica Farmers Market for Market Watch. All right, so one of the things that I always try to do when I'm at the market, especially when it's popping like it is today, is make a loop before you buy anything. That way you can see like who's got what there's a lot of, what there's maybe not a lot of, what's at the beginning of the season, what's at the end, and definitely sample as you go. People don't know that you can do that because we're just like we don't do that in supermarkets. But at the farmer's market, you can totally take a nibble here and there, figure out who's got the best thing. And then I try to get to the end and then go back to the beginning again. But definitely along the way, I'm going to see things that I just have to try. There's spring onions that also have the tops are already bolting. So you've got like the onion flower, and then you've got the big bulbs at the bottom. And you can tell, because we're at the farmer's market, even by looking at the root, this is like a good secret. Always look at the bottom of your produce and look for what's happening at the ends. These are like not dried out, they're super fresh, they're still wet. You can tell they haven't been trimmed a ton of times, which means they're very, very fresh. So I'm already breaking my rule and we're gonna buy these spring onions because they look too good. This is a piece of produce that I have never seen coming out of the ground where I live. So it's a loquat, it's really juicy, sweet, a little tangy. Couple seeds. Kind of tastes like an apricot, like a juicier apricot. Let's get a few, they're great. All right, I've got a fava tip. This tip applies to all beans that are in the shell. What you want to look for is you want to look for a really smooth outside of the pea pod. It's the pod, that's what it's called. And then sort of feeling underneath that the peas inside feel like they're filling up the pod itself. So when it gets, when they get a little bit older, you'll feel that the skin itself is sort of wrinkly and it's started to dehydrate a little bit and shrink back. And that maybe the pod in there doesn't feel like it's really filling out its pod. An adjective that I really like to use for produce, especially greens, like sturdy greens like this, is squeaky. So I'm looking for greens that have very taut, very perky greens, but then when you squeeze them a little, they have that kind of squeaky sound to them. Can you hear that? Are you guys picking that up? And it just means that they're incredibly resilient and that all of the cells inside of the leaf are filled with moisture, right? So that's where that kind of bounciness comes from. So that's a nice bunch of greens right there. So another thing to look for when you're at the market is not using your eyes, use your nose. I can smell those berries over there. I can smell them from a mile away. And that's obviously a good sign. So it turns out they grow 3 different types. These were the Albion, the Camarosa, and the Gaviota. They all have a different shape. This is like oblong, and she was talking about the difference in like even the acidity, the juiciness of the fruit. Camarosa is my favorite. Yeah, strong flavor, really strawberry-ish. So I broke my rule and I already bought strawberries, but now I'm seeing these strawberries, so I have to buy more strawberries. This is what happens, and then you go home and you make a galette, which is why I have a whole section in my book on galettes, because I do this to myself. Now I've bought way too many, and I would definitely go home, make this pastry dough, which is one dough that you can use with any fruit. And I would pile up the strawberries in there, a little sugar, a little cornstarch, and bake the crap out of it. It'd be delicious. Every single weekend of my life on the East Coast, I will never see an artichoke. And not only are they artichokes, they have baby artichokes and they have globe artichokes. And I'm doing my checking the stem end trick for like a stem end that looks freshly cut and not dried out, not woody, no blemishes, no soft spots. And these leaves are super tight and still very much attached. And then when I squeeze them, there's that squeakiness again that I love to find in my greens. All right, so these globe artichokes would be amazing in the spaghetti with quick braised artichoke hearts. I love this dish because it's basically aglio olio, like spaghetti, garlic, olive oil, parsley, but then you trim the artichokes and cook them in the sauce. It's super easy, but really shows them off. The bean for me is the butter bean, also known as a baby lima. Little known fact, baby lima and butter beans, same bean. You don't think about dried beans as being a fresh product, right? Because they're dried. But how long ago a bean was dried is actually really important for how it's going to cook. And so it's weird to say it's a fresh dried bean, right? Because it's dried. But the less time it's spent dried, the more delicious, the more evenly it's going to cook, the more tender it's going to be. Would you agree?
Yeah, nutrition too.
And nutrition too. All right, guys, I did the thing that I do every time. I bought so much produce that I can barely carry it, and now I have to call friends to come meet me and help me carry this all home. This is Carla for Sweetgreen, over and out.